Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we're going to do another light novel review. Now today's light novel is going to be Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon Volume 1. This is written by Fujino Omori. It's illustrated by Suzuhito Yasuda. Is a Yenon title. The genre is just fantasy. I would kind of qualify it as epic fantasy because it's a lot more like, it feels like it's about gods using humans as playthings. And it's a lot more deeper than just, regular people that are magical. There are some video game-esque elements in this book, but they're not really based on video games. They're just like a byproduct of the way that the gods and the people interact in this world. But it's made as a video game-esque type of system so that it's really easy to understand. And yeah, it has an anime adaptation, which is pretty good. The premise is basically there's this guy, his name's Bell, and he is the only person in this god's familia, which is like a guild essentially. And the god that he's a family member for is Hestia. Hestia is not exactly the same as Hestia in like real world mythology, but they're kind of similar-ish. And so he wants to be strong. He has these weird ideas his grandpa put in him about finding beautiful women in a dungeon. Basically, I think his grandpa was really into like harems and wanting to be strong and powerful and like having all the babes because you are strong and powerful. And he kind of like passed that on to Belle. But it's a kind of weird premise. But it basically is more a story about Belle wanting to grow and be strong and have the power to take control of his life when he has moments of vulnerability and when the people he cares about are put in danger. So it's actually a lot deeper than the title would suggest. And it's pretty interesting how it all works. That's basically the premise of the book. And yeah, so in my reviews, I look at 5 things. I look at plot, characterization, world building, art, and fan service. The first 3, plot, character, and world building, are kind of the way I kind of make objective takes on books. Art is mostly just my opinion, and fan service is kind of a warning to people that are not into that. And yeah, so let's just jump into it. So the plot here is really good. It's not super linear. Like you can't really tell where it's going. Initially, a lot of light novels suffer from this, where it's just like, okay, well, this is what is going to happen next. And this is kind of like that, but it takes a bit of a stroll. It takes a couple of deviations from the standard plot line that really kind of add character to the story and kind of make it more, I don't want to say realistic feeling, but it's not as to the point as a lot of stories are. I mean, he does spend a lot of time going into the dungeon to fight. There's no doubt about that. But he also spends a lot of time walking around town, meeting people, going to places, and it follows him in a very day-to-day life. And it really kind of makes you connect with the characters a lot more because you're kind of in their shoes, living with them instead of just like seeing them move forward. I don't know if it's really all that different from other light novels, but the way it's written kind of feels more interesting to me than they usually do. I mean, not that they're not interesting. It's just that, I don't know, it's just done differently in a way that's really appealing to me. And yeah, so like I said, it's essentially a lonely kid trying to find his path and people to share his life with. And then about wanting to grow as an individual, so he's able to protect himself and these people he cares about. So it's a very relatable character setup or plot line, but it's very well done. The fight scenes are really good as well. There's a certain crisp, like staccato feeling to them where it's they're not drawn out. They have enough emotion behind them and enough quickness about the writing to them that it feels like you're in motion while you're reading, even though you're like not. And they don't drag out too much, so it's really good. It's really well done, really well executed. So characters are really good as well. There's two main characters. Well, Belle's the main character, but Hestia is also very important to the story. We get point of view chapters from her point of view, and we basically see her and Belle interact all the time. They live together because they're like part of the same familia. They kind of have to work to support each other because of the way that their familia bond works. I think there's a lot of extra characters that are really interesting. There's Aina, the half-elf. There's Ainz Wallenstein, the sword princess, I think. They call her Kenki, but then apparently some other people call her Senki, so I don't know what her title is. There's Sir, who is a female human who works at a bar or like a tavern. And then who else? There's Loki and Freya and Hephaestus, who are other gods that are friends of Hestia's. Or well, they're like related to Hestia in some way. Hephaestus is her friend. Freya is like somewhat ambivalent, and Loki and Hestia hate each other, but they interact regularly, kind of. And they all interact together throughout the story, and Belle really gets character development with each of them. With Ainz, he kind of develops his part of his passion for growing stronger. With Hestia, he finds family. With Aina, he finds guidance. With Mamma Mia, he finds wisdom and support. And with Seer, he kind of gets like a friendship slash kind of romantic interest. Although he has kind of several. There is a lot of harem-esque kind of stuff in this volume, in this series, which I'm totally okay with. I think it's really a fun type of genre that we don't really see in the West. So I'm pretty okay with it. And yeah, that's basically it for characters. World building is next, and wow, it's probably my favorite. I'm a big fan of magic and fantasy, and a lot of world building and time and effort put into the magic systems and stuff. That's why I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson right there. And generally epic fantasy. And this really feels as close as you're gonna get to epic fantasy from a light novel or a manga. This is like the one that feels most like the epic fantasy I'm used to from Western authors. And yeah, like it's super good. It's very well done. It's detailed. There's a lot of deep lore and good mythos to it. It incorporates a lot of Greek and Norse mythology into it. Like a lot of the gods are Norse and Greek. There's one that's like Hindi, like it's Ganesha, like the elephant god. I think he's the god of wisdom or something. And you kind of get all of these stuff, all of these mythologies kind of mixed together. Although they're not really all that important. It's just like the gods are those type of gods. Mostly, probably, for the sake of being easily recognized and having to develop their characters less. And although that a lot of people might see that as kind of a crutch to let you make your own assumptions on the characters based on knowledge you already have from their name, which I can agree with. I still think it's really like not exactly masterfully done, but really well done enough that it's not really an issue that I really feel is that big. I like it, but the proper world building of the book is very good. The magic is interesting. It seems to be everyone starts at a baseline human level, and then once they receive a blessing from a god, which is essentially being able to gather experience, and then use that experience to quickly develop further prowess, really evolves the people up. Like you could still technically, if you don't have a blessing, manage to become strong, but your time spent is going to be way longer than if you had a blessing. And then there's subsets of each. The blessing has different subsets based on different RPG elements like intelligence, wisdom, defense, speed, endurance, stamina, like those type of things. And each time your goddess updates your status, you get all of these boosts from basically the stuff that you did, your experience, that quickly develop your prowess, your physical prowess. Belle has a special skill that essentially lets him exponentially grow as opposed to linearly grow, which comes into play really fantastically in the story. And then there's a bunch of like special words for all of these things, but basically it's just a RPG leveling system that develops like specific traits, and then the god has to physically like manually do it every time, like at the end of every day or something, which is a little weird because I don't understand how gods that have familias that are immensely large are able to do this. Maybe they just do it less often or something like that. I don't know. It's not something that is explained, but Hestia does it every night for Belle. So yeah, there's a status, there's leveling, there's skills, there's magic, and people can use up to 3 different spells that are like naturally given to them. They have to unlock them first. And then there's special weapons and stuff like that, which is one of my favorite parts in this book is when Belle gets a hold of his special weapon and instantly he has that like sword in the stone moment where he feels everything kind of align in the world and he gets stronger, which I think is one of my favorite tropes or one of my favorite like cliches, I guess. I really like that thing, and that's basically it. It's good lore. It's very enjoyable. I would read a guidebook just around the lore if it was available. I think there might be one, but I'm not sure. The art is also really good. It's a little weird at first because it's a little elongated. Yeah, see? It's really elongated, but not in the One Piece kind of way. It's more of a like the same type of art style from like 90s or early 2000s anime. I think the best example is probably the art in Demon King Daimao. I think it's another light novel that I've done a review on. It's kind of elongated, but not like curved properly. So they just look like planks, and then they have whatever shape they want to be given. But the art's really good. You get this cool fold out. That's really nice. Can you guys see it all? These are the goddesses. That's Hestia, Loki, Freya, and Hephaestus. And then on this side, you get a different one. This is Ainz Wallenstein, and then this is Enya, the half-elf. But yeah, as you can see, they're kind of weirdly stretched out and like not exactly correctly proportioned, which, I mean, I don't care. Art is not supposed to exactly be like that. But it's a really enjoyable art style. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but once you do, it's really nice. I like that the chapter pages also have art on them. I think it adds to the reading experience more so than the story. Yeah. This is my favorite one in the whole book. I just really like how it looks. But yeah, and then the fan service, there is some. It's not all that what's it called, hardcore. It's really over the clothes stuff, and it's not really all that serious. It's kind of a running gag with Loki and Ainz. Loki is like jealous of women with boobs because she is unlucky or whatever and doesn't have any, or she has very small ones. I can't remember. And so she like fights with Hestia about that, and then really likes Ainz and wants to like go on dates with her. And Ainz is like not really into it, but yeah. And then that's basically it. I rated this a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10. I think it's probably one of the best light novels I've read, which is weird because I say that every time, but it's because every time I've basically picked up a better light novel than the last. I would put this on par with Infinite Dendrogram. Those two are kind of my favorite ones right now. And yeah, I think I like this one a little bit better than Infinite Dendrogram, at least from the first volume, just because I'm more of a fan of fantasy than like sci-fi-esque stuff, and because Infinite Dendrogram is about going into a video game, it feels sci-fi even if the setting of the video game is fantasy, at least personally. I don't know, that's just me. I definitely recommend this story for anyone that's into fantasy. If you've already checked out the manga or the anime and you liked it, you should probably pick up the light novel. It has a lot more stuff to it. Well, this volume is adapted pretty faithfully, except for the characterization of Belle. Belle in the anime feels very much like a clueless kid, whereas here he's still a clueless kid, but he's definitely interested in women. And in the anime, you don't really get that, mostly because you don't hear his inner dialogue. So yeah, I'm not really sure if there are any similar titles. I mentioned Infinite Dendrogram, but maybe it might be more similar to a Shield Hero. But it's not. I can't really think of anything that's really comparable. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know if you guys like this book or the anime or the manga. And let me know, is there any other light novel that feels like epic fantasy to you guys? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.